Behind the glitz and glamour of Europe's underworld, there's a shadowy figure pulling the strings, a man who rose from the gritty streets of Turkey to command the respect and fear of Mafia bosses across the continent. This is the story of how the puppet master, disguised as a botox-loving Rapunzel, snatched the power of the European Mafia and made it his. This is the story of the Turkish gangster who secretly rules the European Mafia. Nukati Kaskan Arabaci, popularly known as Neko, was born to Turkish parents on February 14th in the large city of Cologne in Germany. His family was in control of the bouncer scene of the nightclubs in the area, so Neko fit right in as he grew up and eventually took charge. His group of bouncers would befriend unsuspecting girls and then proceed to take advantage of them as prostitutes. Overseeing the red light district, Arabaci expanded his reach across a number of brothels in the area. Business was booming, but Arabaci saw potential in expanding his business even further. Hence, he joined the formidable Hell's Angel Motorcycle Club, a club known for its strict membership procedure. To join the club, 1. You have to be a white male, over 21 years of age, own a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, of course, have a member recommend you, and have the existing members vote on whether they'll allow you into the club or not. Arabaci met the main requirements, and the club welcomed him to their abode in 1990. Expanding his influence beyond Frankfurt and Cologne, he started integrating himself in Turkey. He opened entertainment venues, mostly in tourist-populated areas such as Bodrum, Çeşme, and Kusadasi. However, things got bumpy, and his life plans were temporarily halted. His downfall. Arabaci was arrested in Germany for assault, weapons violation, extortion, racketeering, human trafficking, and pimping, and after being locked up in jail for about 2 years, a trial was finally held. During the trial, he pled guilty and confessed. Hence, the years he had already spent in jail were placed into consideration, and he was sentenced to 9 years in prison. This was a huge disappointment to the brutal businessman, and he made this known to his underlings who came to visit him in prison. He ranted that he would make the rats who caused his incarceration pay, as well as the prosecutor, Jürgen Botsman, who ensured his conviction. He was mad about everything, but unknown to him, the visiting room of the Wuppertal Correction Facility was bugged, and the police were listening to his rants. Arabaci hired an Albanian hitman from Duisburg for a quadruple murder. He was serious about the revenge, and even paid a sum of 150,000 euros as a down payment for the prosecutor Botsam, a Bochum club owner Zakaria, and 2 police informants from the Cologne underworld to be assassinated. Plotting revenge on the people who wronged him wasn't the only thing he did. He was still in control of the red light district and continued to run his criminal empire. Still having a tight hook on his business outside the prison walls, he continued to collect profit from the brothels in Augsburg, Leverkusen, and Elsdorf. He reportedly gave his underlings specific instructions on how to deal with competitors and even went as far as issuing bans on the Cologne table dance bar Stardust. And with his eventual release, he planned to expand his business all over Europe. This was the limit, and the public prosecutor's office applied for preventative detention to further detain the gangster. The prosecution came to the conclusion that Arabaci was a great danger to the public, and the transcripts of his conversations in the visiting rooms were pulled as evidence. This was looking bad for Arabaci. Upon conviction, this could earn him a life sentence in prison. Hence, Arabaci denied ever saying anything like that, and Stefan Ufer, one of his lawyers, argued that the allegations were not things that would ever happen. He maintained that his client was just trying to show off to his former accomplices, and since he wasn't in any way going to do those things, the conversations were irrelevant to criminal law. The prosecution doubted this very much, but upon further review of the transcripts of his conversations in Turkish, they realized there were some mistranslations in a couple of places. Upon going through the recordings again with the help of another qualified translator, they decided that the mistake was from their end and admitted that they shouldn't have relied on just the translation from the police. The new senior prosecutor agreed that the conversations were just harmless talk that anyone in Arabaci's position would make. Therefore, in 2006, the prosecution office failed to imprison Arabaci for life using preventative detention, and the case was closed. However, there was one person who didn't believe Arabaci, and it was the prosecutor that convicted him. Jürgen Botsman still believed his life was in danger, And when he heard that Arabaci would be released early and deported to Turkey 6 years before the end of his sentence, Botsman took his wife and fled to Germany. The plot against his life started in 2003, way before Arabaci's trial, but Botsman took this as a joke and just ignored it. He went ahead with the conviction that cost Arabaci a 9-year sentence. Although the prosecutor wasn't initially alarmed, he was still classified as being at risk. Therefore, he was given bodyguards and his residence was transformed into a fortress with bulletproof glass. With the increased talk of Arabaci cursing from within the prison walls to hunt him down, Botsman began to take the threat seriously, and though he never left his house without escort, his mental health began to take a huge hit. His colleagues mentioned that he was looking downcast and depressed whenever they saw him, and by October 2004, he was declared unfit for service due to psychological problems. Classified as Security Level 1, Botsman began to feel like he was the one in prison. Fear of death ravaged his mind, and he had to go on sick leave due to depression. He eventually became 80% disabled after he had a stroke. And on April 20, 2007, when Arabaci was released, Botsman fled Germany with his wife, refusing to tell anyone his whereabouts. To evade the anger of Arabaci, he changed his location from time to time. His reawakening. Back in his home country, Arabaci returned to his ways, which he never really left. He settled in Çeşme, Izmir, and continued to run his gang business from there. In between his businesses, getting a new Botox every other week and obsession over his long hair, Arabaci found time to rise in the ranks in the Hells Angels Club. This was made possible after the leader of the US-based Hells Angels European branch, Frank Hannebuth, was arrested in Spain in 2013. This opportunity catapulted Arabaci up the ladder, and a year later, he founded Hells Angels Bodrum MG within the club in the same country he was banned entry. Germany only released him on the condition that he wouldn't be allowed to smell their borders again, but this fell on deaf ears, and Arabaci continued to run businesses there with the help of his men. He even continued visiting in person with fake passports until this was discovered in 2013 when he was caught multiple times with a fake Bulgarian passport. Since he wasn't allowed in there, he formed the Hells Angels Bodrum MG there for Turkish immigrants, gifting Germany a piece of himself. He then used his newly formed club to launch an attack on Walter B's business, another member of Hells Angels with whom he has been fighting for the president position of the European branch. The clash caused a lot of casualties, but Arabaci received support from the Hells Angels members in the USA and Denmark, as he has had their backs in their drug trafficking business in the past. With all the buzzing around, it wasn't long before he caught the attention of the European Union. On the run. Although he got the president position, he didn't get to enjoy this for long as Eloy Velasco, a judge of the Spanish Supreme Court, made an EU-wide arrest against him. He was charged with extortion, drug trafficking, and prostitution. However, Arabaci still enjoyed freedom as Turkey does not extradite its citizens, hence he was just restricted from entering the European Union countries. Although an arrest was issued against him in 2015, it wasn't until June of 2018 that he was arrested in an operation sting against his Hells Angels Club and Sarılar and Besak groups. Careful in covering his tracks this time around, he was acquitted 3 months later on the count of no evidence. He was soon arrested again in Çeşme in July of 2020, alongside 2 of his men on the charge of being behind the murder of bar owner Ahmet Atik, who was shot in front of his house in 2019. But he was released 10 days later due to insufficient evidence. His next arrest came the very next month when he was charged with forging official documents during a vehicle stop. Although sent to Buca prison, he was released almost immediately again. Up until 2024, he maintained some sort of low profile till he was mentioned in the statement of a secret witness in the Aryan Bora Kaplan case. Since the mention, he hasn't appeared in public, with Kaplan's son's wedding being his last public appearance. For more dark stories of the underworld, subscribe to the channel and smash the notification bell to never miss an update.